Hello and welcome to a new episode of Airport CEO here on Bongoplanes. It is in fact the final episode in this series, but before you get too upset, don't worry. Of course we will be continuing with Airport CEO here on the channel, but we will start up a new season, a fresh new airport, in a little while. Actually, I've already been working on some footage on the new episode, on the new airport. I've mentioned it a few times already, but of course that was all recorded before the last update, and well, so I think it is better to have a fresh start. So I'll probably just discard all the footage I already have and just start fresh. But let's get back to the airport here. Obviously, there are now a few things here that are a little bit broken. I've tried to fix a few things, but also some things that, honestly speaking, I just can't be bothered to fix. For example, we have here one thing you can see here, all the roads here, or at least some of the roads, have somehow converted back to being grass instead of concrete or asphalt, and I don't really know why that has happened. It's all to do, of course, with the update. All this was made in the previous version of the game, and some of it hasn't really been converted into the new version. So there are a few things that are a little bit broken here, but we will just gloss over that. And yeah, I was probably going to continue a little bit with this game just on my own, off camera, but honestly speaking, now that it is a little bit broken, I'll probably just say that was that. But obviously, for this last episode, we want to go through the airport and see what the airport has to offer. And of course, as I say, just gloss over the parts that are a little bit broken now after the update of the game. The first thing I can just say here, for example, I've had to change a little bit around the baggage base because that requires more space, or now requires that you build a road on both sides of a baggage bay. Stuff like that wasn't necessary before in earlier versions of the game. I tried to fix that just so that the thing could keep on running. You can see it's not quite finished yet, so it's actually a little bit stuck here at the moment, but yeah. Aircrafts are still coming in and going out, so we will see a few aircraft here and there throughout the episode. I've also tried to make a schedule that is well, we are here at the end of the day, but try to fill up the next day with as many planes as possible, just so we will have a busy schedule and hopefully see a few planes throughout the video. Anyway, I think we should start off obviously with Terminal 1, because I guess that makes the most sense. So obviously people would arrive here, going along on the road, and then turning up here, and then arrive here in this area where they could park their car, or if they arrive by a taxi or via bus, they could get out here. Obviously they would then enter the building, where they then would immediately go upstairs to floor 1, which we will be doing here. Here they would arrive at the check-in area. Now we have basically 3 check-in lanes, or whatever you want to call it, lines here, that are for the different areas of Terminal 1. Terminal 1 obviously consisting of the main building, which we refurbished in the last episode, and of course the satellite terminal. Although I think was the last episode that we refurbished? I think it was the one before that. But anyway, you've watched the show, you watched the series, so you know what we did. So they would arrive here, they would check in. I think we will follow the luggage in just a second, but anyway, after they leave the luggage here, they would go over here to the security check. Then, depending on what aircraft they will be on, they will have to take different routes. If they have a departure here at the main building, they could go up here through a nice shop, and we would have 2 gates over here. So still plenty of space over here, but yeah, that could have been developed. We didn't quite get to that. But over here we would have 2 gates for aircraft which would be using jet bridges. Now, if you were so unlucky to have an aircraft that, or flight, which wouldn't be using the jet bridges, you would go downstairs here back to ground floor. Here you would then arrive again, having a little bit of opportunities to do some shopping, and you would already be met straight away by a gate. These were of course the new gates that we installed, where we replaced the small stands with these medium stands here. And we would have, I think we have 3 here. Yes, exactly, 3 gates here where you can get to your aircraft, and we again have some shopping. The other way you could have been going would be going upstairs, or upstairs, not upstairs, going up here, because here we would have 2 more gates where you could again take your flight. What do we have here? We have a Brussels Airlines. All right. The alternative, of course, which expanded Terminal 1 quite much, would actually be to stay here on ground floor, but then going over here to the top corner here, and then take the escalators downstairs, minus level 1, and then going through this tunnel. By going through this tunnel, you would be crossing underneath a taxiway, which in this case has also converted somehow, at least partially, back to being grass. I couldn't be bothered to fix that, but you know, this used to be asphalt, obviously. Anyway, if you were going through the tunnel, you would then, of course, at some point end up to another stairs, another set of escalators or stairs. You would take those upwards, but then again continue upwards, because then you would arrive at the satellite terminal. A nice little terminal here with 6, I don't know, 8. I managed to get 8 in. I'm sorry, some of the details I've kind of forgotten a little bit, because it's actually been quite a while since I've been playing the game, but I still know, of course, what is at the airport, but the numbers sometimes slip away. But 8 gates would wait for you here. 8 lovely stands where we could have aircraft coming in. We can see here we have a 737 of Transavia. Over here there's still nothing, because it's in, yeah, already quite late. So I think these flights have left. We have a Wizz Air also here at the terminal right now. Here you would have a wide range of shops, small and medium-sized, I would say. But of course, if you, for example, go into a food room and you get something to eat and drink, you might need to go to the restroom. For that, we have these lovely escalators here, where you can again go down to ground level, and then you would find these lovely bathrooms. Of course, the staff working at the airport would also find a staff room. At the same, we also have a little bit further up the terminal. So that would be pretty much what we would have here at Terminal 1 for the passengers. So if we go back to the main terminal building of Terminal 1, what happens to the luggage when they arrive? So obviously they would leave the luggage here at the check-in desks, and that luggage would then go down either up here or down here or down here, depending on where you're of course checking in. All that would then go to ground level, and from there then straight down to level -1. And here the luggage would then go, ultimately end up on this line, depending on where it starts from. You can see some luggage coming in here. You would have some luggage. This is where we had the new part which we installed at the refurbishment. That would actually cross even further down 1 level, going over here, and that would need to, just to be able to cross these 2 lines and then enter into the belt system here. That would all go down here, where we have plenty of scanners, making sure that nothing dangerous gets on the aircraft, and if something would be dangerous, it would be sorted out here and then be destroyed. Anyway, it would then go further down here, and from here then be distributed to the various baggage bays that we have. So again, going up to ground level. And here we have all these busy workers waiting for the luggage to arrive. As we can see here, some luggage coming out, and that would be loaded. Obviously, that then be driven to the aircraft. And the same, of course, goes if it comes on an inbound aircraft. The luggage would arrive here, would go down, and then again be distributed throughout the system here, and then all the way over either one of these 3 points here, or all the way over here. And then on ground level, we would have the luggage retrieval areas, as you can see, working here quite nicely, where we split it up into 2 lines. So we've just taken these here and we've set left and right. In that sense, we kind of yeah, make sure that the luggage is always distributed evenly to these lines. If you just set to destination, it would probably just go to one of them. In this case, left and right, we force the system always to take one left, one right, and so on and so on. I quite like doing that because it kind of gives a little bit more life to the whole baggage retrieval area, and I quite like that you have more than one belt per baggage retrieval room, because as we know, we have these rooms, even though we can just make it in physically in one big room, but the area has to be specified as one area. And then we have here the new luggage retrieval area which we made, which looks nicer, although again here the textures of the floor, they have changed. That didn't used to look like that. That's after the update. Some things that have changed a little bit, so yeah. But anyway, we still have this issue that these two lines sometimes say that they are not connected. They are connected. It does work. We know that, although an aircraft just is crashing into the building. So we just ignore that as well. A little Flybe, ATR 72. If you just pause the game, let's see. Yeah, 72, obviously. Yeah, good. Anyway, so we just ignore the fact that the aircraft crashed into the building. Now, if you were so unfortunate, you see more stuff not working. Oh, I've changed some things here. Vehicle access. I'm not quite sure. Okay. Oh, you can now change the direction. That's quite nice. Anyway, if you were so unfortunate to arrive at Terminal 1 but you had a flight at Terminal 2, there was a long time where that was just, that was it. You were doomed. You couldn't reach your flight. Of course, at some point we figured that out and we actually changed that. So we made this lovely little extension out, even leaving some windows here so people could look out here onto the taxiway, which has been slightly converted to grass again, and also the runway. But anyway, they could walk down here, have a nice view, and then come down here to this escalator, going down, and then walk over here. The roads that you see here is what is it called again? A service road, that was the word. So we connect the systems from one side of the runway to the other side of the runway, and this is just a normal road for passengers. So we would have this tunnel here, even have some bathrooms, although again also here something has not quite worked out with the walls. We also ignore that. And then they could walk all the way. We have multiple bathrooms on the way, just in case you should need that. Maybe you had something bad to eat, something your stomach couldn't quite handle. But anyway, multiple chances there to go to the bathroom, and they will arrive over here, where we then have Terminal 2. More on that just in a second. Of course, the whole runway system, we have 3 runways at the airport, although again here this has also been messed up a little bit by the update. We have one runway here, which actually used to be running all the way up here. Now it doesn't, and I don't seem to be able to fix that. I would probably have to remove the runway and place it again. But you would have multiple accesses here to the runway, and aircraft arriving from over here could also cross over to the other side by going down here and cross through the runway here. This runway would be the center runway would be exclusively for takeoffs, and exclusively takeoffs for medium aircraft. Of course, at that time we still didn't have large aircraft, and even if we had, I don't think that would work with the runway. The new update has a large runway for, which is I think needed for bigger aircraft. Then we would have a runway over here, which was a bit shorter, but that was then exclusively used for landing and again for medium aircraft. And then we had a third little runway, which we then used exclusively for small aircraft, and which we then also used for general aviation. We also used to use it for commercial aircraft, but of course, as we got rid of the small stands for commercial aircraft, that's actually not quite needed anymore. We do, of course, as I should quickly also mention, we do have a few general aviation stands. All of them are small. We have 2 down here, and then we have 4 of them just up here above the satellite terminal. Now let's head over to Terminal 2, which I'm quite proud of. I quite like how that all ended up. So if you were arriving at Terminal 2, again, you would have the choice between parking spaces, arriving by taxi, bus, and even the metro, which we have right here, or the subway as they call it here. Anyway, you would arrive at the arrival hall, or nonsense, you would arrive at the departure hall, where you again would have multiple areas where you could check in. We would also have some shops on both sides, of course, also in a little hidden staff room over here. So that was quite nice. They could access that through the shop. So we're utilizing some of the space here that we otherwise wouldn't be. And we of course also had bathrooms. What we even had over here was actually behind this shop was a hidden area which we didn't get to use, but we built it in case of an extension or need of more security checks. We had a hidden area here, so the plan would have been to remove at least part of this wall and maybe also remove some parts here of this shop so that people could go through here and they would be able to reach these security checks and then via these stairs go upstairs to the departure areas. But anyway, as this was still hidden and didn't get used, the normal path would be to go through security, one of the many security checks we would have here along the building. Passing through security here would then again leave you with options where you could go. If you had an aircraft that would be leaving from a remote stand, your way would then go would be to go over here and then go downstairs. If you then went downstairs, you would arrive in this quite large area where we would have multiple gates. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And of course, again, various shops available for you. Also here we would have a staff room and bathrooms available for passengers. Passengers that would be boarding the aircraft here or arriving from the aircraft here would then take these stairs and then again go up to ground level, and you can see here now we're back in this area, these escalators going out here, and that would be for them then to arrive here at these bus stops where buses would take the passengers to the aircraft, and we would also have these service car stops here, so the workers could go from the terminal building to the car and drive out to the field to the aircraft that they need to service. Again here the textures, the floors, they didn't used to look like that. I don't know if they've changed how the particular floor that I used has let's say that again. I don't know if they have changed how the particular floor that I used looks like, or if it has loaded wrongly. I'm not quite sure, but this is again part of the problems going from one game version to the other. Anyway, if you were coming from or going for an aircraft which would be leaving right from the terminal, which would be the majority of aircraft here at Terminal 2, you would be taking one of the many escalators here that go upstairs. So you would go up to level 1. Again here arriving at various points, but mainly at this end of the airport. Again here having multiple shops and gates. If your aircraft was positioned a bit further up the terminal, you would then be passing up here. We have a lovely Scandinavian Airlines A320 waiting there right now. You were going up here and then again having multiple shops, but in this case, instead of having the gates just on one side of the building and then the shops on the other side, up here we would change the setup a little bit, because here we would have stands on both sides of the terminal, so the shops would be centered in the middle of the building, making them accessible from both sides, and then of course also having these lovely gates on each side of the building. Again here also some bathrooms and a staff room, and then further up again the same system basically all the way up, and then having obviously as the gates you have only the entrance or the jet bridge on one side, so there was a little bit space left here so that we can use for bathrooms and a small staff room. Right here we have an Icelandair 757 visiting our airport. Obviously also making sure that we would have enough space for the service equipment that we needed. We needed quite a lot, so we had multiple vehicle depots, although I think most of them will be empty because most of the equipment will be in use. But we had those spaced out throughout the terminal, so you can see we had some up here and then again here on both sides, and we also had some down here, and that was simply that in an attempt to reduce how how far the equipment would need to go to reach a depot, and from the depot go to a stand. I did also at some point and some places assign specific GSE to specific depots to make sure that they would always be close to. I think I did it specifically over here, so they would be close to these remote stands to reduce the time the equipment would need to arrive to the aircraft, because that's also one of the things, or always one of the things that were delaying flights, was that the aircraft arrived, but for example the stairs wouldn't have arrived yet, because they would only start driving to the stand when the aircraft arrived, which is a little bit strange. The logic there is not quite right in the game. Obviously the equipment should start going towards the stand before the aircraft arrives, so that it is ready for the aircraft when it pulls into the ramp. But in the game it's a little bit the other way around. When the aircraft arrives, then basically that triggers the equipment to head over to the stand, and that if the equipment then is stationed quite far away, that can then delay the whole procedure of turning the aircraft around, and basically can give you a lot of problems. So that was my attempt to resolve that issue, having these depots fairly close to the stands across the airport, and even in some cases assign equipment to the specific depots. Obviously it's not always nice and sunny, and that means of course we will also have winter here at the airport, and for that we then had our de-icing pads. There of course we figured out that we needed far more than we had in the beginning. I think in the beginning we had well, we only, I guess, had 1 or 2 over here for Terminal 1, and then we had 3 over here for Terminal 2. We quite quickly found out that that was not nearly enough, so we added quite a few here. So we ended up having 5 for Terminal 2 and 3 for Terminal 1, although again here the aircraft didn't always take the shortest route to a de-icing pad. Sometimes they would also, for example, coming from Terminal 2, instead of taking an de-icing pad here over at Terminal 2, they would be heading over to Terminal 1 for some reason. I never really figured out why they would be doing that, because otherwise the aircraft always tend to take the shortest possible taxi route to their destinations. But in this case, that's what they did. Anyway, we can actually see one here right now being de-iced, so that's quite nice. A Swiss A320, and this is going to somewhere in Mongolia. Interesting route. Yeah, that's also one. That's one thing they still haven't really done with the routes. They're still quite unrealistic, unfortunately. Hopefully this can be solved either in a future game update or in a mod. That would be really lovely to have more realistic routes, because some of them are actually quite funny where they're going. Where are you going, for example? This A319 from EasyJet is going to the United States and a place that I cannot pronounce. Alright, but okay. Flybe, well that's actually a little bit more realistic. Esbjerg to Antwerp in Belgium. That would not actually be totally unrealistic, but yeah. Anyway, we even have a little, where are you going? What are you doing? Are you going for de-icing, or are you just... Oh, you are. Interesting. Obviously, you can also build small de-icing pads, and I guess now also large de-icing pads, because we also have a large aircraft. I won't be making, or I won't be adding. This is the last episode, and one of the reasons is also because there isn't really physical space anymore. I had actually hoped that the game developers, when they would be adding the big aircraft update, the wide-body aircraft, which it actually should be called, that they will also extend the area that you can build in, because it's actually quite small. And this is one of the reasons we kind of end this series now, is because we kind of used up all the space. We could have made a little bit of an extension over here, but nothing huge. And if I would have to add large aircraft here, we would need to use the large aircraft stand, so we would need to change quite a lot of things. Also, the taxiways would realistically need to be wider for the larger aircraft, and there isn't really space for that. So that's one of the reasons we kind of end on this note. We could also quickly just take a look at the baggage system that we used here before we finish up this episode. So obviously, again, people would arrive here, leave their luggage, which at the end of each of these systems here would have a connection downwards. And then we would have here basically, actually here we would even go further down, because, so you can see from this line here, this would go down, but obviously as we already have the departure hall there, we needed to go one level further down. I didn't bother to make a building for that. Normally I would have, but in this case I didn't do that. And then go over here, then we would have like this connection where it would go through, and then all the way over here, again going downstairs. No, it's going upstairs. Ah, of course, sorry. So it would be going over here. So this would be the line, the one central line, which would take up the luggage from all the check-in desks. That would then go upstairs here, straight to a scanner. If it's dangerous. If it's dangerous, it gets destroyed immediately. If it's fine, it goes past through here. Again, here we have chosen 2 destinations, so we can just operate with one line, and then the system sorts out automatically where the luggage needs to go to, and then we have the different baggage bays over here. If it would be going inbound, so the aircraft has just arrived and leaving some luggage, the luggage would arrive here and then go straight down immediately here. Going over here to this line, you can see some luggage arriving right now here, so that's quite good. So then it would go over here. Then again here we would see where can it go. It can go to various luggage halls, but they're all in this one larger room, and then people could pick it up here. Of course, people would, if they arrived at the airport, they would come over here and be heading towards the central part of the airport. If they came from the remote stands, again, they would be coming in here, they would be going down the escalators, coming over here, having to go up where you would basically head towards security, or the back side of security, and then again take the escalators up. So that's a little bit up and down here in this case, and then it will go over here, and then they would be going over here, going down the escalator, still in the security zone, and then first now be leaving the security zone, going through a shop. We see that quite often at airports, just basically between the departure and arrival areas and the luggage retrieval area, that you kind of go through shops to try to make people spend more money. And then, yeah, again, here the baggage retrieval area. From there, they could then leave the airport and go outside. So that is basically the airport that we have. A few things a little bit broken after the update, but it's still kind of functional. There's just a few textures that have changed. Yeah, obviously no big aircraft update or big aircraft wide body. I don't like saying big aircraft, it sounds a bit silly, but the wide body aircraft update here, because we don't really have space for that. But that will come in a new series that we'll be making, where we will try to replicate Berlin Tegel as good as we can. Yeah, I'm not quite sure when I will manage to get that out now, because obviously, as I say, I will probably discard all the recordings I've already made. It's not a big problem, but we'll probably use the next couple of days to try to start recording for the new series, and then see when I will start releasing that. But anyway, thank you so much for having followed through the process of making this airport. This is actually the first airport that I make on camera, where we kind of follow through that. We have had quite a lot of developments throughout the whole construction phase. We have had a major update, which was actually the multi-floor update. We started as before the multi-floor update. That changed so much for this airport. Before that, we probably just have made Terminal 1 and just finished it. But then the multi-floor update came, and we could, yeah, completely change how our airport operated and worked. So we got through that, which was quite nice. Anyway, thank you so much for having watched, and I hope really that you have enjoyed this series. If you did enjoy the series and of course this video, then you're always welcome to leave a like. That would be very much appreciated. If you are new around here, why not hit subscribe? Of course, don't forget that throughout the entire Christmas period we will have daily uploads here on the channel, mainly reviews, spotting videos, trip reports, and so on and so on, and maybe also a few new videos here from Airport CEO. With that, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you very soon again on Checking Out, and bye.